Hello and happy Friday, and welcome to this week's episode of Sports Corner. It's been a long few weeks since our last show, so we have a lot to catch up on, mainly in the NFL, as the path to the Super Bowl begins now. The NFL playoffs are officially here, and it's hard to wrap my head around the fact that all 18 weeks have already come and gone. It's bittersweet, but the playoffs truly are the best time of the season, and the wild card round begins tomorrow. Starting in the AFC, the Denver Broncos finished their historic season with a 14-3 record, clinching the AFC West title for the first time in 10 years. With a 19-3 win over the Los Angeles Chargers last Sunday, the Broncos officially claimed the first overall seed and the first round bye. They get a week of rest and recovery, and they will face the lowest remaining seed in the divisional round. The New England Patriots were right behind the Broncos, also with a 14-3 record, but claimed the number 2 seed with a dominant 38-10 win over the Dolphins, as well as finishing atop the AFC East for the first time since 2019. Now they face the number 7 seed Chargers. After a relatively tumultuous season, the Chargers still clinched a playoff spot, and while they still have an uphill battle, they still could find their way to a Super Bowl. The AFC matchup between the Patriots and the Chargers will kick off on Sunday night at 5 p.m. on NBC. The Jacksonville Jaguars have found their stride at the right time. Going into Sunday, if both the Broncos and Patriots would have lost, the Jaguars would be the number 1 team in the AFC. Obviously, both the Pats and the Broncos won, so Jacksonville claimed the number 3 seed in the AFC South title. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence put on a dominant performance, throwing for 3 touchdowns and leading the Jags to a 41-7 win over the Titans. The Jaguars are my Super Bowl dark horse this year, and I truly think they have the talent to win it all. First, in their way, in the first round stand the Buffalo Bills. This is the first time since 2019 that the Bills have not won the AFC East, however they still claimed the 6th seed in the playoffs. Even though Josh Allen remained on the sidelines and didn't attempt a single pass, the Bills ran right through the Jets, winning 35-8. Every single season, Josh Allen and Buffalo's kryptonite has been the Kansas City Chiefs. Now that the Chiefs are out of the playoffs, the door is wide open for the Bills to claim their franchise's first ever Super Bowl title. This game between Buffalo and Jacksonville will be on Sunday at 10 a.m. on CBS. Rounding out the AFC, we have 2 teams that narrowly made their way into the postseason. The Houston Texans were the favorites to win the AFC South, however the Jags claimed that title. Houston still has an incredibly powerful defense, which helped lead them to a 9-game win streak to end the season. But in their way of advancing to round 2 is the team that had the most dramatic playoff entrance, the AFC North winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The final game of the NFL regular season between the Steelers and Baltimore Ravens could not have been scripted any better. The winner of this final game would not only win the AFC North, but clinch the final remaining playoff spot. The loser would pack their bags and head home for the offseason. It was back and forth all game long, and 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers threw for a season-high 294 yards, the last 26 yards coming on a go-ahead touchdown pass to Calvin Austin with 55 seconds remaining in the game. Kicker Chris Boswell missed the point-after attempt, though, and with 55 seconds remaining, the Ravens got the ball back, down by just 2 points. On a game-deciding 4th and 7, Lamar Jackson found Isaiah Likely for an acrobatic catch and a 24-yard gain, putting the Ravens in field goal range. They wheeled out the kicking team, and with no time left, Tyler Loop missed the game-winning field goal wide right, and the Steelers clinched their playoff spot. Now, after the dramatic conclusion, the Steelers and Texans will square off in the final Monday night game of the season. So, time to revisit my preseason predictions. For the AFC playoffs back in July, I predicted 7 playoff teams would be the Bills, Texans, Ravens, Broncos, Chiefs, Bengals, and the New England Patriots. I got 4 out of 7 right. I was literal inches away from being right about the Ravens, but it was fully wrong about the Chiefs and Bengals. In the NFC, the conference is wide open for the taking. The number 1 seed Seattle Seahawks clinched both the division and the top spot in the conference with a 13-3 win over the rival 49ers on Saturday night. Quarterback Sam Darnold led the Seahawks to a 14-3 record and one of the top scoring offenses in the league. Now they get to rest on their laurels for a week and enjoy the first round bye. One of the biggest shocks of this season, the Chicago Bears, claimed the number 2 seed and won the NFC North for the first time since 2020. In his second ever season, quarterback Caleb Williams, joined by head coach Ben Johnson in his first ever season with the Bears, looked to lead Chicago back to another Super Bowl. In the wild card round, they will take on their historic rivals, the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay opened this season as the Super Bowl favorite, and they dominated for a short amount of time. However, injuries and some ugly losses bumped them down to the leaderboard and into the final slot of the playoffs. This game between 2 heated division rivals will be tomorrow at 5 p.m. on Amazon Prime. Next, we get a pretty intriguing matchup of the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Niners had a shot to secure both the division title and the first-round bye if they could beat the Seahawks, but couldn't produce a win at home, even in their all-black rivalry jerseys. Now, they fall to the 6th seed and have to travel to Philadelphia. The reigning champion Eagles still managed to win the NFC East, however, it wasn't really pretty, and they got bailed out by a pretty bad overall division. Now, as the number 3 seed, they'll have to defend their home turf against a powerful San Francisco team. That budding rivalry game will kick off on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on Fox. Rounding out the bracket are the number 5 Los Angeles Rams and the number 4 Carolina Panthers. The Rams were Super Bowl favorites for a large portion of the season, but a few late season losses dropped them out of the running for the NFC West, so they had to settle for the 5 seed. Matthew Stafford is still the MVP frontrunner and by all means should win the trophy. I still believe they have the best chance in the NFC to make the Super Bowl. On the other hand, like the Steelers, the Panthers punched their ticket to the postseason in dramatic fashion. In fact, they lost their way into the playoffs. On Saturday, the Panthers only needed to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to earn their playoff spot and win the NFC South for the first time since 2015. However, Baker Mayfield led the Bucs to a 16-14 win in the pouring rain, keeping Tampa Bay's hopes alive. But the Bucs still needed the Saints to beat the Falcons on Sunday. Fortunately for Carolina, the Atlanta Falcons defeated the New Orleans Saints 19-17 on Sunday, eliminating the Buccaneers and giving the Panthers the top spot in the NFC South. This will be the first game of the 2025 NFL playoffs, kicking off at 1:30 p.m. tomorrow on Fox. In the NFC, I predicted the 7 playoff teams would be the Lions, Buccaneers, Eagles, Rams, Commanders, Packers, and, as a gamble, the Carolina Panthers. Turns out the Panthers were the smallest gamble of those picks and would be only one of the 4 teams I got correct. So overall, I got 8 out of 14 playoff teams correct, just a little over halfway. Not great, but not terrible. Also, in my regular season picks, I picked up another 4-0 week, ending my season with a 38-14 record. Since I began this show, I have a lifetime record of 156, 55, and 1 all-time in the picks, which is just about 74%. Not too bad. Outside of the 14 playoff teams, some major news stories still occurred around the NFL. Myles Garrett is now the NFL's single-season sack leader after taking down Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow on Sunday. With 5 minutes and 16 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, the Cleveland Browns defensive end made history at midfield, sacking Burrow for a 5-yard loss at Paycor Stadium. It marked the 23rd sack of the season for Garrett, passing TJ Watt and Pro Football Hall of Famer Michael Strahan, who were tied atop the list at 22.5. A day later, on what has become known as Black Monday, the Browns fired head coach Kevin Stefanski. The day was full of firings, though. The Falcons fired Raheem Morris, the Cardinals let go of Jonathan Gannon, and after just one season, albeit a pretty awful one, the Raiders parted ways with Pete Carroll. Possibly the most surprising move was the Baltimore Ravens firing head coach John Harbaugh after 18 years. Obviously, the last-second heartbreaking loss to the Steelers played a factor in this decision. Harbaugh ranks 12th for the most wins by a head coach in NFL history with 193 and guided the Ravens to a Super Bowl title in 2012. Harbaugh now leaves as the longest-tenured coach in Baltimore sports history and is one of 8 coaches in NFL history to record 300 games with one team. He finishes with a 193 and 124 record, including playoffs, and guided the Ravens to 6 AFC North titles, 2 number 1 seeds, and 4 trips to the AFC Championship game. Baltimore had only 3 losing seasons under Harbaugh, 2015, 2021, and 2025. It's rumored that somewhere around 7 teams have already expressed interest in bringing in Harbaugh to be their next head coach. Some other coordinators around the league have been let go since, and I expect some more head coaching positions to open up pretty soon. That was a lot of NFL talk, but I can't end the show without mentioning the college football playoffs. The first round went relatively as expected, with Oregon dominating James Madison and Ole Miss breezing past Tulane. Alabama was a slight upset over Oklahoma, but not too surprising. However, Miami holding Texas A&M to just 3 points was pretty wild. In round 2, that's where things got flipped on their heads. Oregon upset number 4 Texas Tech in dominant fashion, shutting out the Red Raiders 23-0. Then number 1 Indiana proved exactly why they are number 1, defeating Alabama 38-3 in the Rose Bowl. The 2 biggest upsets, however, came in the Sugar Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. Number 6 Ole Miss narrowly outlasted number 3 Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, completing the 39-34 upset. Then, in the Cotton Bowl, number 10 Miami breezed past last year's champion Ohio State, 24-14. Now, the stage is set for the semifinal round in the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl. Last night, Miami and Ole Miss got the action started in Glendale, Arizona. Miami continues their streak of upsets, taking down Ole Miss and earning their spot in the national championship game for the first time since 2001. They will have to wait until tonight to see who their opponent will be, as Oregon and Indiana kick off tonight at 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. All roads lead to the national championship game in Miami, Florida on January 19th. Playoff football has arrived in glorious fashion, and the next few weeks will be a lot of fun in the sports world. Come right back next week for more news, scores, updates, and highlights from across the football world and all across the sports world. As always, thanks for tuning in for the first episode of Sports Corner of 2026. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.